So Iris Carnero said that I was taping into her apartment, like I stood there and was recording her in her apartment.
No, she said that she sees what she said was, she thinks that you're videotaping her.
Right. I never encountered Iris yesterday, so I was just trying to make sure when did she state that that happened, because I didn't even see her yesterday.
Well, if it wasn't yesterday, it was, well, no, when she was talking to me, she said that you walked by.
So she said when I walked by, you were talking to her. I stopped and I was recording her. I just want to find out.
No. She didn't say that you were doing it when we were talking. She said previously. So my feeling is that it was yesterday that I don't know what she saw, Erica, or what you were doing or anything at all. I'm just saying that what she said to me was that she felt like you were using your phone to record her.
While she was inside of her apartment, right?
She was in her apartment. Her door was open. She said that you walked by, and whatever you were doing appeared to be as though you were recording.
Yeah, I don't even have a response for that, Dom, because I didn't even see Iris yesterday. We haven't, and I never speak to her. The last time I spoke with her actually was in the parking lot when she had her car towed a couple weeks ago. And then other than that, I didn't even see her yesterday.
She brought up the car towing thing too, and she mentioned that you were recording then too, or she had the impression you were recording then also, and she, that along with yesterday or whatever day it was, if it wasn't yesterday, is concerning her. So I mean, are you recording people?
Because like I said, no, if I'm in custody of my phone, that does not equal recording, and I have no.
Absolutely not. So you're not recording people.
Yeah, and not only that, I'm kind of concerned. Why would she think I need to record her for what? Like,
oh, I have no idea. I mean, people, complain about things all the time.
Yeah, I mean, recording is something you're clearly, holding your phone up on someone and, focusing.
That's what she said you were doing.
Right. Okay. And she brought that up to you yesterday?
Yeah.
Weeks after we encountered each other, and she said I was.
No. Yesterday she brought it up because she felt like it was happening yesterday. In the conversation, I asked her, are there other times anything like this is happening? And she did bring up she brought up two incidents. The towing incident where she was having her car towed, and I apparently you came out to investigate what was going on, and it appeared to her, and apparently the tow truck person, that you were recording them. And she mentioned another time, I think she said it was her ex-husband dropping off her kids, something like that, and maybe you were recording them then as well. I'm not 100% sure. She had, commented on, it appears as though to her that you're, making a point of, investigating them in particular, either through the actions I'm describing or, yeah, I mean, that's what she's saying. So, I mean,
I'm not sure what I'm investigating, Don. I'm not, I'm just the manager here, but I will be frank. I always have my phone. I'm always documenting when I see things on the property, things that I need to alert Carlo about or to repair, things that I'm observing. Like I'm going to go take more pictures of the apartment and email them to you. If there's a parking lot, I always have my phone in my hand. So other than that, I cannot help what she is referring to, but I don't even ever speak to Iris, and I don't even have, if you look in Yardy, I don't have any notes about her and haven't had any counters or anything.
I think it's fine. Taking, videoing things on the property that need to be videoed and taking pictures of things on the property, that needs to be done from a management perspective. But if we have a resident that, feeling it's directed at them, I think it's important for you to be aware of that so that you can, temper that if it's in fact happening.
Well,
I don't think you want people to feel like you're, videoing them if you're not.
Yeah, I think that when you get into people's feelings, that's where it gets very iffy, and I can't control that because clearly this is irrational. I am not even, she's not even on my radar. I haven't had any issues with Iris, haven't spoken to her or anything.
Well, she has issue with you.
Okay, like I said, yeah,
something's happening.
that's what I'm saying is that's not, that's you, that's on her, on her end. I'm doing.
I mean, it's her, but I mean, it's based on encounters. So I'm just trying to, talk to me a little bit about why she thinks that yesterday. You didn't encounter her yesterday?
I did not. And this is what I'm saying. You just said right now, tell you why she thinks. I have no idea why she would think that. And and when they're in custody of their phones, I am not assuming that people are recording me, and it doesn't trouble me. I'm not thinking about it at night. I don't call you. I don't have that concern. And I can also help that because I am not holding, and I have no reason to. I have a lot of stuff that I have to do, and I'm mostly in my office. And when I go out onto the property, walking out to the property for whatever reason, like when I was the last time I did encounter her, and we had a conversation in the parking lot when she was getting her car towed. And I had my phone in my hand, so that doesn't equal towing. But all we did was talk. Excuse me, not towing.
She was expressly under the impression that you were recording the interaction. So, I mean, whatever the encounter was, it appeared to her as though you were recording it. You might not have been recording it, but it appeared to her. So, I mean, I wasn't there.
Right.
I don't know what it looked like, but to her it looked like you were holding your phone in a position such that you would be recording her. And, that might be necessary. You might be recording it just for documentary purposes, and it might be justified, or it might be unnecessary. I don't know. But, I mean, if you're telling me that you weren't recording, then I can, let her know that that was not what was happening.
Okay, so so again, I would say the same thing, that actually no, there was nothing that I needed to get about her getting her car towed. I just asked her what was happening, like what happened. She didn't let me know about a rodent issue. I guess she suspected that like rats ate her wire lines or something in her vehicle or something like that. Nothing about that was anything that brought moments pause that I needed to record her. And I certainly, well, it's not funny, but to me, it just sounds so absurd, and I'm not holding my phone up and recording anyone.
It does sound absurd. I agree. It sounds completely absurd, but I had to listen to it for half an hour yesterday. So when I get phone calls from residents about things like that, I got to, call you and find out what's going on. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm asking you, what is going on.
Mm-hmm.
So, what about, she described that encounter with her, what did she say? She said that her father was, so she had a list of stuff, Erica. I mean, she's taking notes. So she's got some sort of a, bone to pick, and I don't know why.
She could take notes. None of it has to do with any violation of the law, and a lot of people can fabricate information. None of it is actionable, and especially when it's made up in someone's imagination. And that's what I mean. I cannot control that. I can't control that at all.
You can't control that. I agree. What I'm trying to make sure is that we're not creating an unnecessary situation that's causing stress for the residents. And so I'm trying to understand from your perspective, what you're doing that she's perceiving entirely different. I mean, we might be looking at two people looking at the same thing and seeing completely different things, obviously.
Right, unless
so I'm trying to understand it from 300 miles away.
Unless you're requiring me to not use a phone on the job. I always have my phone. The companies have my phone when I'm out of the office. I always have it on me. It's a part of what I'm doing all day long. And I literally can't be concerned with, because it sounds like there's an issue there with, maybe she's had prior incidents with people and cell phones. I don't know. But Iris is not on my radar whatsoever. I don't speak to her. And actually, you know what? I said hi to her actually the other day. And if there was an issue, I would think that, she would say something, or I guess,
Well, I mean, her issue is she doesn't believe the interactions between you and her have been what she would expect in a manager, and that's fine. I don't necessarily need my managers to be, friends with my residents. Often the problem is, friendly, not familiar.
And what is it? What did she mean by that? Not to be where it should be. What did she mean by that?
Well, I don't know. She mentioned that she felt that you were videotaping her while her door was open and she was in her apartment. So she perceived that from whatever you were doing.
Right. So that would require, but in order to perceive that, like I said, in order for that to be reasonable, she's suggesting that I was standing in front of her apartment looking through, because I think she even has a cover over her.
You didn't walk by her apartment yesterday.
She said I didn't?
No, I'm saying, you're saying you did not walk by her apartment yesterday.
Oh, no, I have to go upstairs. So she's saying I stood there in front and taped inside of her apartment?
She didn't say specifically that you stood there. She said that she felt that you were videotaping as you were passing by, that you were videotaping into her apartment. I didn't ask her if it seemed like you were passing by or not. I just asked her, what was the issue that was causing her fall.
Mm-hmm. Right? This is the entity in psychotic behavior monitoring. And then referencing Iris Carneal, she's going to federal prison for a very long time. But let me be clear, Don NAUGLE is monitoring as well. And this is the entity that's monitoring documentation, asking questions you know the answer to, while the entity is stalking in a helicopter in real time. They're going to federal prison. P.O.C. That's the light. Yes, I'm here. Like I was stating, I have not been into, she hasn't even had so much as a work order done. So my walking past her, which I have to do in order to get upstairs, and I don't even know how she would know that I had a phone on me, because all I did was walk past her apartment to be.
Well, I mean that's the thing, So for her to be so specific, that's why I'm asking. So you're saying that you didn't have your phone out and you weren't videotaping, and that's great. So and then she noted the other time was when her ex-husband was dropping off their children. He, in fact, she didn't see it. It was reported to her by him, and he apparently pulled out his phone and might have even vocalized that he was recording you too. But certainly he did it and reported you too because he thought that you were recording them.
Yeah, I have no, I don't. But I remember her children. So that's how I do recognize. So there was an encounter where I have no idea what okay, so there was an encounter where there was a person that was outside blasting their music, and it was in front of my office. And so I'm documenting the vehicle that was improperly parked and blasting music. And so I was using my phone to document, because I keep pictures of the vehicles, and before I put issue warnings on them. So that was a parking issue. And he was
so for vehicles that are in violation, you photograph before you put a violation on it. I like that idea.
I document that because if they ever try to complain, well, why did you tow? Well, first of all, they can be towed because it's a private property. But I want you guys to know that even before I towed, I give them chances before I tow them. So
do we have towing signs on the property that specify the towing company?
Yes, we do. Okay,
good.
But this guest of hers, just so that you know, and I think that this is what I'm saying. It's also funny. Two things that I just want to say. I'm guessing this is her guest because her kids were with him. So he was blasting music, not just a little loud. It was like extremely loud. And I went outside and I sought to document the vehicle. He wasn't even in a parking spot. So he's sitting in the middle of the parking lot blasting music. And then I see Iris's two kids. So I'm just assuming, I guess that's who she's referencing. But that gentleman was in violation of the community's policy. And not only was he causing a disturbance, he didn't even have permission to park on the grounds. And by the way, he still comes onto the grounds, and I have not said anything to him because I understand that he's picking up. I guess I'm just assuming that that's Iris's. What you're saying.
Indicated to me yesterday that it's her ex-husband.
Okay, yeah. So I haven't even said anything. In other words, he continues to park there, and he doesn't have authority to park there. So if I was trying to be, in other words, like a stickler, I could put warnings. I don't even do that. But he's still parking on the grounds, and he doesn't have permission to park. And he should not be a disturbance on the grounds, and you won't have to worry about.
Do we have guest parking?
No, we don't. We've got one reserved spot, and if that's available, but let me be clear, it's reserved. So let's just be technical. And this is something that me and Maria and Carlo, we discussed when I moved here. It was intentionally made reserved. So it's actually reserved for, I've let residents let me know if they're going to intend to use it for a short amount of time. You can't park there overnight. You can't keep your car parked there all day long either. But that's the only one. With regard to handicap, that's not guest parking. And so that's how I cleaned out the parking issue. People stopped parking in the front of the property. We don't technically.
There's no guest parking.
No guest parking, not at all.
What do people do when they have have guests.
They park off the property?
They have cars.
They park off the property, yeah. We
They
are.
park off property.
They park off property. We are that small, Don. It's very small.
I don't know. I'm not asking. I'm not trying to ask a tricky question. I don't know. I wasn't aware. So we don't have any guest parking on the property. So people that come over and visit have to park outside the gate somewhere.
They do. I have permitted to those that communicate because it's so small, and I am familiar with the residents, and they're just clarifying. You know, I'm just going loading or unloading. Sure, you can leave. You can put your car there and then move it back. You can park for a short amount of time in the reserved space. I don't mind that. I won't put a warning on your car. You've put me on notice. I won't, have your car towed or anything like that. But technically, there is no guest parking, and those that are abusing that privilege, then I reserve the right to issue a warning and have your car towed. I do reserve the right to do that.
Well, yeah, that all makes sense.
But just so the other thing that I was going to tell you, which is also what I find interesting, my first encounter with Iris Carnero, Maria and Selena know about it. This is when I first started back in July, and Iris Carnero was exceedingly violent in her speech and hostile and aggressive. And I think that it's interesting that she is approaching you being so concerned with someone recording her. I'm not paying any attention to Iris.
Talk to me about that. When was that?
This is when I first started in July of 2023, and I was asking her to refrain from violating the parking policy, which again, I remember I came in and I literally had to, this community was without a manager for a prolonged period, and I'm actually trying to enforce rules that I don't even think were employed when they had a manager. And so some of that challenge I undertook. I understand that. But with regard to my repeated requests that she please refrain from parking in the front of the property, because she would leave her car in the fire lane. She wasn't just loading and unloading. She would leave it there parked all day. And she did it a couple times. Again, when residents are violating, I don't just go in and into attack mode. I'll let you do it a couple times. And then if you continue, then I will have a conversation with you. After I have a conversation with you, I'm going to issue a warning on your car. I'm going to document that warning. If you continue, I'm going to have you towed. It's never gotten to that point.
So talk to me a little bit about that conversation. And I'm not this conversation actually that you had, but like that type of conversation. What is the, I'm trying to understand what her deal is, right, Erica? So, hear me out for a second. You can be pretty commanding in your communicative style. You have a tendency to get everything in your mind out, sometimes over people's talking. Oh, you talk over me sometimes. So I'm listening to you and I'm trying to understand like what you're doing and saying, and I'm trying to understand what somebody else might be perceiving. Like, so if you're the manager and I'm a resident, you're coming out and talking to me about, I'm parking illegally and you're going to, enforce the policy on me. Tell me how that scenario goes down. Like, what is, you've seen me park there a few times. You're deciding to come out and talk to me. Like, how do you do that? Like, what is your approach?
Okay, so when I encountered, generally speaking, or what the conversation with me and her was?
Generally speaking, I'm not asking specifically about Iris. I'm talking about if it were me and you didn't know me other than just being a resident, and I had parked illegally a few times, and now you've decided that it's time to put a stop to it. You're going to come out and give me the lay of the land. Look, you can't park here anymore. You keep doing it. How do you approach that?
Okay, so when it's a resident, because they're my residents, so I can I know their cars, and so I'll see them, and especially if it's for not a long time, I don't even say anything because they move it. But if I see you parking in the fire lane and I see your car there for hours, I may not say anything the first time, maybe not even the second time. If you continue to do it, then I'll knock on your, or give you a call actually, and I'll just give them a friendly reminder. And I mean, it's a friendly reminder. Hi, I just wanted to give you a reminder about the parking policy. If you could please refrain from parking in the fire lane and only parking in your reserved spot. I totally understand. I give them a reminder. If you want to park, if you need to load and unload, that's perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. But please do not leave.
I like what I'm hearing, Erica. I mean, it all seems like, I'm hearing one version of things from Iris. I'm hearing another version of things from you. Somewhere in the middle, is reality, and I don't know where that is. I like the story you're telling me. So your practice is to give somebody a call and say, hey, just wanted to touch base with you about the parking. You can't park in, it's prohibited to park in the fire lane. I need you to, stop doing that. You try to be friendly about it and informative, and let them know that it really has to stop, and if it continues, then it's possible the vehicle could be towed.
And that's my residents, because I know them and they pretty much know the policy. I don't even have a problem with the residents anymore. Once I first moved here, they had to get accustomed. There are actually rules. Please comply with them. I will ask you gently. And you've already agreed to this. It's signed in your lease. Okay. If you need a copy of it, let me know. We can go over it. But this is where you can park. You've got a parking spot reserved for you. Please use it. Okay. So other than that, visitors, if I find your car parked there, I do the same thing in general. I will document it. I immediately document it because that's the first time I saw it. And if it's there for a prolonged period, then I put a warning on it. Prolonged meaning it's there for hours and nobody came and asked me, do you mind if I park, in the reserved spot for a couple hours? I'm going to go see my mom or whatever. Nobody said anything to me, and you're just occupying space, especially when I have vendors that are coming that need somewhere to park. Then yeah, I'll issue a warning, and I do document that. I take a picture of it, I email it to myself, and I have a folder on my computer. So in addition to that, issue warnings for visitors. Other than that, it really hasn't been a problem. If someone does it repeatedly, then you'll get towed, but I don't just tow the first time.
Okay. All right. And okay, so that sounds reasonable to me, Erica. Enforcing the rules is, obviously part of the job. Being resident's best friend isn't. So. But
listen, Don. Seriously, I do not know where Miss Carnero. I don't understand where she's coming from, and what I was going to tell you is what is so interesting about what I'm hearing is that she is mischaracterizing the encounter with her ex-husband. He was very aggressive when I was documenting the fact that he was presenting a substantial disturbance on the property and not parked, having no authority to do so. And then I saw his kids who were with him. They come after the fact. And this is when I'm putting two and two together. Oh, okay, I guess he's here with a resident, which doesn't mean that you can still blast your music and sit in the middle of the parking lot. All right, so my documenting that is my job, and that's what I'm supposed to do.
I don't have an issue with that at all, Erica. Not at all. It's giving me some color to the conversation. Hearing your side of the story is important for me. Yesterday, all I had was her, basically slamming you.
In addition to that,
that's why I'm talking to you about it.
I want to let you know, which Maria and Selena know about, when I first started here, and I politely asked her, because I'm always going to be polite, I'm professional. This is why I got the job, okay? I'm the same person that Maria hired that she was telling you about, okay? And as I approached Miss Carnero about parking in the fire lane and parking in the handicap spot, she happened to be at her car. And so I took opportunity to ask her. I think there was something that I needed her to sign. And then while I was asking something about that, I brought up the fact, well, would you mind not parking in the front of the property, not leaving your car in the front of the property? And she commenced to getting, because she was bringing something out of her car at the same time, she commenced to slamming her car door, and she starts hollering at the top of her lungs in the parking lot, making a scene and yelling out vulgarities, the F word specifically. And she was stating, oh, F word, I can leave my car all I want. I don't even remember what she's saying, something to the fact she's trying to do something. She's trying to, I guess, put something in her apartment. And I did respond because it was so appalling, her response, and not commensurate at all with my request to comply with the parking policy. And that was her response to it. And I did tell her that harassing me as the manager is not going to be an excuse for violating the parking policy. And that was something that did go to Maria, and Maria brought it back to me. That's noted in Yardi. You'll see it in Yardi. But that was when I first started, and she was very aggressive. She was not some, docile victim of someone. I'm like attacking her with my camera on my phone or anything like that. And that's how she introduced herself to me. I am always professional to Miss Carnero. I say good morning to her, even when it doesn't seem like she really wants to speak back. I'm never holding my phone up to her and like chasing her down. There's nothing. Only thing I'm interested in is that she complies with the parking policy and please pay her rent on time, which she always does. And so we've never had a problem since then.
Well, all right. I mean, it all sounds like, he said, she said, and I mean, your description of the encounters is more believable to me. It sounds like management 101. And residents using, yelling and screaming and, bitching about being managed is not an uncommon reality. I don't know why she has a hair for you. For whatever reason, the events that we've talked about have stuck with her. So she sees you coming a mile away. I mean, there's nothing you can do about that because you're going to keep on doing your job. But, be aware. If she's going to, keep on saying you're doing things, there's no stopping that. But as long as you're sound in what you're doing, then I think everything's fine.
Well, I'm glad that we had this conversation, but like I said, it seems like the type of thing where one could be, I don't know, Don, I feel like if I wasn't able to clearly describe to you what happened, that it could be an unfair conversation where someone's irrational feelings are going to trump over maybe facts, so.
Well, that's why I'm talking to you, Erica. That's not what's happening. You're giving me a description of the event that is, the version that seems more believable from a property management perspective. I mean, it's what I would expect from my manager. Without talking to you about it, how would I know? I have a complaint from a resident. I have to look into it. So, you don't have to worry about, it being fair or unfair. I'm investigating it to find out the truth of the matter and the information so I can make a judgment call, and it sounds to me like you're doing your job. So, I don't know what else to tell you.
Okay, well, I do appreciate the opportunity to speak to you about it. Giving me the opportunity to address it, I suppose, rather than just accepting it as facts and then like just accusing me of something that I did. And it's really perplexing because I don't know, what am I recording her?
You're a manager, Erica. You're a manager of the property. You're doing exactly what you said. You're documenting things. You're walking around the property. You're enforcing rules. That's going to rub residents the wrong way. I deal with it all day, every day. Residents getting pissed off at managers and supervisors for enforcing the rules. I have conversations with those managers and those supervisors to get their side of the story so I can understand why I'm getting a call from somebody about something. I don't get a lot of calls about things. When I do, this is my operating procedure. This could very well be me talking to Carlo, to Maria, to any of my supervisors up here. It's nothing in particular about you other than the fact that Iris said Erica. So, she could have said somebody else's name and I'd be talking to them. So that's what we're doing. Erica has had a number of encounters with you that she paints from her own lens, which is obviously not liking being managed. So I can't fix that. And I don't hear anything from you that I need to fix either.
Right.
So
the last thing that happened was reported to Maria. This was last year, and that's the only thing that was reported to Maria because because she was cussing at me. I mean, that's disrespectful. Go ahead.
The last thing, meaning your first encounter with her.
Exactly. My first encounter was the last encounter I had with her. Yeah.
Well, I didn't know anything about that. So, I mean, that's great. That's good to know. That sort of thing, probably worth escalating to my attention. when that sort of thing, when you get, harassed by a resident, that's something I want to know about too. So, if you have an encounter with a resident that, evolves into, yelling and shouting and screaming, where, you have to de-escalate and walk away from this situation, certainly documenting it, make a decision about whether or not it's something you want to bring to my attention, because not so I can, find someone to reprimand, but so I can protect you. Because if we need to send a letter to the residents, then we're going to do that. But I'm not going to have my residents harassing my management staff. But if I don't know that things like that are happening, and I get complaints from those residents about things that they're perceiving from management, I don't have the full picture, right? So I had no idea that you had a negative encounter with this person from the beginning, and she was the aggressor in the conversation. I might have been able to, glean a little bit different angle on this if I knew that. I don't recall it. I don't think I knew about it. But in any event, I think it sounds like you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and keep on doing it.
All right, I appreciate it, Don. I'm going to send you the pictures of 1803 as soon as possible. I've been kind of bombarded with a lot of little stuff with each of the units, but I'm going to send you those pictures because I know you want actually just general pictures of the rooms, because I took kind of up close pictures of stuff. So I'm going to give you a picture of the whole kitchen and the whole bedroom.
Yeah, let me. This is an important point that you made out, maybe unintentionally. I never necessarily want up close pictures. I always want to see a perspective of the space, right? So it's funny that you mentioned it. It's one of my major gripes from managers, especially when I was a supervisor. But the issue in relation to everything in the room is very important.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're taking a picture of damage, I don't need to see the damage up close. I need to see the damage in relation to everything in the room. So far away so I can have perspective. Very much so for the types of pictures I'm asking for this apartment, because I just want to get a sense of what the renovation style is, what the flooring is, what the paint is, what the cabinets are, what the bathroom looks like.
Mm-hmm. Understood.
I don't need to know what the towel bar looks like.
Okay.
I just need to know there's a towel bar on the wall.
So I got that. I gathered that from the conversation. So I was going to go get those simplified pictures so you can get a big picture view. I understand.
Perfect. And then I copied you on an email from what's her name, Sarah.
Yes, I saw that.
We'll figure out pricing, as we approach the 6th.
Okay. All right. Understood. Thank you, Dawn.
Thanks, Erica. Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, that's a psychopath, okay? The entity is monitoring me. You see them flying right over my office while this entity is, again, exercising fictitious authority. But for this targeted individual's ability to represent myself, okay? You're being bullied by a demon-possessed, number one, entity, okay? This is the state that is using Don NAUGLE to engage in what is obstruction of justice, wanting me to stop documenting the people. They're all monitoring on the internet, on my phone, knowing exactly what I'm taking pictures of. I'm having a conversation with a psychopath who knows that I'm not going to say, yeah, I'm documenting you and all the rest of these demons. No, I'm not going to say that, because I'm not going to sit up and entertain a third-party group stalker's malicious engagement to obstruct justice. That's what's going on here, okay? And it's relevant to what is workplace terrorism, harassment, and sexual violence by entity engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring, which is exactly what you saw as I step outside of this office and you see the light source and the entity flying right over my office, while a psychopath that's monitoring calls and asks questions that they know the answer to, creating some sort of scenario whereby, oh, it's coming from another third party. Those third parties who live here are all going to federal prison. And since they identified her, Iris Carnero, by the way, the demon who you saw cross path, and the phenomenon of what is light ricocheting while she's driving under the light source, which as a matter of documentation is over me on the same day at the same time while I'm arriving in Fontana, California, and you're looking at engineered light that's moving across the wall. That demon is the one that he's referencing. And I want to be clear, Don NAUGLE is a demon also. All right, the entity is engaging in what is monitoring, and then, oh, I had a resident. This is a demon, a third party who's monitoring. And she's concerned that you're taking pictures of her. This is a demon-possessed psychopath who's monitoring with the entity that's stalking me, engaging in surveillance with helicopter day in and day out, and then asking me questions about, well, she's concerned that you're taking pictures of her. She's monitoring everything that's on my phone. These demons know that I'm capturing video. So what they're not going to say is, well, we know that you're documenting the fact that we're monitoring you and keeping you under surveillance, And I need you to stop doing that, or I need you to admit to doing that. That's what that demon is actually saying. And they're not going to admit. You're going to have to prosecute and choke the life out of them with evidence. This conversation was audible activity. I want to be clear. This is a threat to your job. The ordinary target individual that is being bombarded with this criminal system is subject to not only the pattern of conduct, but it is an exercise of fictitious authority. Let me be clear. The same entity that's monitoring you on the job is also seeking to be an obstruction to your ability to do that job, is engaging in what is harassing you as you engage in doing that job, even successfully. And the entity is engaging in what are ongoing petty methods. But let me be clear. What one third-party group stalker is doing, which is petty, it is an overwhelming method of psychological torture and harassment by an entity when all of them are being petty together while the entity is stalking in helicopters, engaging in what is amplifying helicopter activity while they're surrounding you in helicopters, keeping you surrounded with all sorts of demonic light activity, which is occurring in the workplace, serving the criminal system of state surveillance, and which is harassing just seeing it on an ongoing basis. This psychopath had the audacity to ask me those questions. This is exactly what Maria Solis Alvarez engaged in, and it is exhibiting what is highly mentally deranged behavior. It is malicious of an unheard and unprecedented method, and I kid you not, when you are looking at the state flying over me in helicopter, at the same time he is engaging in what is the creation of audible activity, it is exactly what I told you. This is a psychopath. Very highly malicious. Oh, I don't know. I don't know, Erica. It sounds like you're doing your job, and I'm just glad that I had the opportunity to speak with you. I don't know unless you tell me, and you need to let me know. He's lying. He's a third party. He's monitoring, and he is engaging in the state's pattern of conduct, and that was a ploy, but it depends on the direction that the conversation takes. If you don't have the right answer, if you're not able to navigate around the ploys of a demon who wants to trip you up somehow and try to create a narrative, if you're not quick enough in order to cut them off, okay? So the entity is engaging in what are means to harass you. And then if they can, create a narrative that you're not doing your job when they are monitoring. And I'm sorry, let me stop beating. I'm getting so upset, but this is going to be Todd Speaker. He's going to be prosecuted, period. All right. This is a criminal obstruction of justice, an exercise of fictitious authority by the entity, the state of California, that has no warrant or probable cause, no lawful basis to keep you under surveillance on the job. And the entity is acting via Don NAUGLE for purposes of seeking to obstruct justice. And let me also be clear. You are in every way going to document the entity that is in any way keeping you under surveillance at the workplace. The entity that is suspected of engaging in the pattern of conduct, which the federal government now understands is occurring in the workplace, you will exercise your right to document the entity wherever you're at, because that's where the entity is keeping you under surveillance, wherever you're at. So in their little false reality right now, all right, where they're being bombarded with a whole bunch of reality on an ongoing basis, but in their little false reality where you are exercising fictitious authority, this is the state. This is a demon. You're not actually a legitimate supervisor. And every word coming out of your mouth, I'm going to use it against you in federal court because it's audible activity and it's ongoing. While the entity is literally flying over my head in a helicopter, you're going to be placed in a mental facility for engaging in conduct like that. Okay? The entity is engaging in that's highly, highly malicious. All right. In the specific environment, there is no sun over the Fontana Lewis Library. There is no sun that's over the Ontario Museum of History and Arts, which, as a matter of documentation, I've already documented. The Ontario Police Department demons are group stalking on March 13, 2022 at the light source, under the light source, while it's directly over my head at approximately 3:30 p.m. That's a matter of documentation. And I already used this venue as a vivid illustration of the pattern of conduct. It's already in existence, but I'm going to show you what is prosecuting the state because I'm going to give you documentation, uploading it to the compare the P.O.C. folder of what is the sunrise and the sunset while I'm at the same address, including stalking in a helicopter at that same venue, which is the Ontario Museum of History and Arts, while I am in the workplace in Los Angeles under a light source, which is not possibly the sun that would be in LA when the sun is rising and setting at one address, which is on its face, not the natural environment. Nonetheless, this is how you are choking the life out of a demon-possessed entity that's monitoring you. All right, and engaging in federal stalking. All right, and that psychotic behavior, you document that because that's going to be the grounds of what are very serious and systematic mental examinations by the entity that's keeping you under surveillance, seeking to violate you on your job. This entity that is the state while you're in the workplace, they don't have a legitimate grounds to release you from your job. They're monitoring you. They're not assessing your performance. They're not asking questions about things that they're not sure that you're completing. They're looking for ways to harass you, to criticize you, to in any way defame you, because understand, it's to the public, it's public information, you're monitoring. Everything is that is said, everything that's in writing, it's to everyone that is monitoring you. This is inherent defamation, by the way, while the entity does that. And they're doing it on the internet. And because the entity is monitoring online, the telephone conversation on the landline, but this is actually connected to the internet. It's a communication device. But even on a landline, they're monitoring and recording the phone call. Remember the documentation, Tracy Banks is monitoring me inside of her apartment at Woodside Senior Apartments, where the specific environment is documented, by the way. But the entity is engaging in criminal summoning. Tracy Banks is summoning the police who are already monitoring. Okay, so the demons engage in the act of calling the police who are not already stalking. Period. They're psychopaths. This is a malicious criminal system. You're just ignorant about those connected facts. And on the surface, it looks like a person is calling the police, and the police, ignorant of what's going on, are then arriving and conducting an ongoing investigation and exacting justice in whatever way the facts and circumstances were. It's the P.O.C. Okay. And this is why you have Jay Burnett, who is pulling out his phone after he engaged in kidnapping me while the P.O.C. was underway in Ontario, California. And he plays back an argument that occurred between me and a third party inside of her so-called private residence. But on his cell phone, he was able to pull out his phone and play back the argument that occurred between her and she and myself inside of her apartment, which, by the way, was no evidence of any assault and battery committed by me. It was evidence of me, which is all of its audible activity in the specific environment they're monitoring. And the fact that he pulled out his phone was able to play back that argument. That's what the entity is doing. It's all a matter of public information. You are under 24-hour surveillance, and that encounter informed what this entity is doing as well. The entity engages in that idiotic bravado, that fool pulling out his phone and in front of me while I'm handcuffed in the back of his car. He's going to federal prison, by the way. While I'm handcuffed in the back of his car, he assumed that I would never have any platform to expose what he represents the state, what the state is doing. And so did Tracy Banks. Okay, that they did not count on the fact that they're going to be prosecuted for that. And that's the same, by the way, Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court entertaining a fictitious prosecution where all of an entity is keeping you under surveillance. They know very well those are the corrupt police that are then handing you over to the corrupt sheriff's department, that are then taking you to the corrupt courthouse where they are entertaining and masquerading as though they have legitimate jurisdiction under the law. They do not. It's state surveillance. This is all a fallacy, probable cause, jurisdiction by the court. No, they don't. It's all based on what is the criminal conduct of a government, which you have no knowledge about. That's what the P.O.C. is about. So I want to be clear. The entity is maintaining a light source. Don NAUGLE is going to federal prison. This is occurring while the entity was flying over my office, literally while he is asking the questions that he knows the answer to as a demon on the phone inside of my office, all of which is serving to monitor me. He's threatening my life while being an entire psychopath, asking me questions about a third-party group stalker whom he knows is here living at the grounds, engaging in the pattern of conduct while that demon was flying above me in a black helicopter. That is how idiotic, that's how obsessive, that is how unheard of, okay, the pattern of conduct is. And they really did that. And I got it on video as well. He's going to federal prison, and that goes for the Speaker Company's personnel. They're going to federal prison. The corporate office is located in Palo Alto. They are engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring at the corporate office. I was there. They were monitoring me there, and they're monitoring on the venue of the internet in concert with the people of the state that are in relevant position. He's acting pursuant to the same elements of monitoring. And he and the rest of Speaker Company's personnel are going to federal prison. All right. It is currently, by the way, when you're looking at this light source, it's 4:11 p.m. There is no sun that would ever be over the Ontario Museum of History and Arts. But I documented that demon-possessed agency engaging in multiple acts of kidnapping in Ontario, but also at yet another venue, not the Ovid Family Community Library, not the Economy Inn at 2301 South Euclid Avenue, but at the Ontario Museum of History and Arts, which is also relevant to what I'm documenting, the P.O.C. All right. And this entity is subject to what is federal prosecution. All third parties here, they're all going to federal prison. The entity is keeping a light source, rising and setting the light source, not the sun. That's going to be present from the beginning to the end of the day. And then those demons are then creating what is a narrative, which is nothing other than the pattern of conduct. While the demons are stalking in a helicopter, it could not get any more unfavorable, factually speaking, with regard to the prosecution of the public entity. Again, it is currently in engineer light. This is the demon just sitting along a little minion. She's being a demon right now, and that's unfortunate. She's crossing path, and the people of the state sent that child to do that. It is currently 4:12 p.m. because they're maintaining activity. P.O.C. That's Precious Bastillos, who knows she's losing custody. It is Again, the entity is engaged in criminal summoning as a means of activity creation, sending that child to run across to create activity at 4:12 p.m. It is currently, again, 4:12 p.m. and this is P.O.C. I want you to see this. They're all going to federal prison. Employees of speaker companies are going to federal prison. They're not only engaged in state surveillance, they're engaged in federal stalking in violation of Title 18, 22618 subsections 1 and 2. And what you just witnessed, what I just documented, was an iteration of criminal obstruction of justice. And it is entirely disturbing. And it is revealing what are unprecedented levels of malice. This is P.O.C.